political fortunes of both former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his Pakistan Tehreek-E-Insaf party, or the PTI, hang in the balance following his conviction on graft charges and subsequent incarceration. However, his party leaders and lawyers are hopeful of vacating his conviction and releasing him after they filed a petition challenging the verdict in the Islamabad High Court today. A trial court in Islamabad, which sentenced Khan to 3 years in prison on August 5th, said in its 30-page order, and I quote, "He cheated while providing information about gifts he obtained from Tosha Khana, which later proved to be false and inaccurate. His dishonesty has been established beyond doubt," unquote. Tosha Khana is the custodian of all state gifts. Raoof Hasan, the PTI's information secretary, has cast serious doubts about the order by questioning how it was that a 30-page order was drafted and pronounced in just about half an hour. The guilty verdict automatically triggers Khan's disqualification from seeking public office for the next 5 years. If his sentence is upheld by the Islamabad High Court, the PTI plans to go to the country's Supreme Court. Behind the scenes, though, the party's core committee is preparing for the eventuality that the former Prime Minister is not granted relief even by the Supreme Court and looking at life without the charismatic Khan at the helm. Raoof Hasan spoke to Mayank Chhaya Reports from Islamabad.
As you can see, I had reserved this for Mr. Khan's appearance, but I don't know if you can see this.
Lovely, lovely, lovely.
Alas, it's not to be.
No, it will be. It will be. He's not going to be there for long. We'll get him out.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let me begin. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I heard in your interview just now that the order that was passed by the court for Mr. Khan's conviction was essentially wrapped up in about 30 minutes. And the talk in Pakistan is that it was already written before anything happened. What's your sense? Do you think this was just a sort of a kangaroo court-like thing?
Well, Mayank, let me ask you just one simple question. Can you draft 30 pages in about 30 minutes?
Not a verdict, no.
So that is exactly what happened, He closed proceedings at 12, and the judgment was out at 3:30, at 12:30.
But that's
30 minutes.
That's a damning thing. So is it your sense that it may have come from political bosses?
No, the way the entire case was conducted, basically, of course, we were certain about the fact, that, this is the judgment, this is the verdict that would come out ultimately, and we proved to be right. And most importantly, it was Khan himself, who said, well, it has been predictated. In one of my tweets, I called it a premeditated hatchet job. That is the best description that one could come up with. It's a hatchet job, basically.
Since we're talking about the Tosha Khana case, lay out for my viewers some details, because there's a lot of confusion about whether he bought those gifts at a discount, whether he did not buy it. What exactly is the position that Mr. Khan has taken on it?
Mayank, I'll take a few minutes, to explain it. Basically, see, it is legal to get gifts, from Tosha Khana. When Khan became the prime minister, the going price was 20% of the evaluated price. Right? If you pay 20% of the evaluated price, then you can, the gift is yours. Khan, first and foremost, increased it to 40%. So instead of 20%, he said you will have to pay 40%. Now you can keep gifts, to yourself, but certain gifts are not permissible to be taken away, including the cars. You cannot take cars away. When they are gifted to any dignitary, they immediately go to the national car pool. And then they are used for whatever purpose, they are appropriate for. So Khan did take certain gifts, after payment of 40% of the evaluated price. And part of the money, in fact, most of the money was invested in building a about 6 kilometer long road in the area. It's a public road, in the area where he lives, which is called Benigala in Islamabad. So all that money that he made was invested in building that road. In fact, it's little more than 6 kilometers. So where is the problem? The problem is that there are two statements, that you have to give. One statement is given. It's a for tax purposes, it goes to the Federal Board of Revenue in Pakistan, in which he mentioned that yes, he had taken that money and this is the kind of profit that he earned, and he paid tax on that. The other statement goes to the Election Commission of Pakistan for purposes of your eligibility in elections. There, although the money was mentioned, but he did not mention the profit. Now, Election Commission of Pakistan is not the taxation body. So obviously, the oversight was not because he didn't want to pay taxes, because he had already declared that profit, to the Federal Board of Revenue, on which he had also paid taxes. This was, since he was not filling up the forms and all that, you can well imagine, his staff, did all that. They have always been doing it. So there was at some point in time an oversight where the profit was not mentioned. So that is the entire case. It's a technicality. It's a minor technicality. That why is it that it was not declared? Like I said, it was declared to the Federal Board of Revenue, which is the taxation body, and tax was paid. But somehow it was an oversight, and it was not mentioned, in his submissions, to the Election Commission of Pakistan.
But in retrospect, do you think it might have been problematic for him to have sold those items, even if it was all above board?
Well, it was above board, Well, there have been questions, on the moral aspects of it. I think that is what you're referring to. But you see, he did it because, he needed money, and it was a long road. And I remember, because I've been going to that area for a long time, it was a horrible road, it was full of potholes. So, he got that, and it was well within the law, because law does not prohibit you from selling the product, from selling the gift, that you have purchased from the Tosha Khana. So he did it. In hindsight, he may be thinking differently, I may be thinking differently, but the fact is that at that moment in time, he was thinking of investing that money in improving the road conditions for the inhabitants of that area. Hundreds of thousands of people use that every day, which actually came because of the money that he invested.
Yeah. So quite clearly, the profit did not go to his own pockets. That's been clear from the get-go. And yet, here we are. This is the case which has undone him. He's in prison now, and the fear is that this is it for him in terms of his political career. Do you think this is it for him?
Well, let me also state here that, virtually every head of state or head of government in this country has taken gifts away. And they have also taken forbidden gifts. For example, some gifts cannot be taken, like cars. The Zardaris and the Sharifs and the Mariams of this country have taken even cars. And some of those gifts have been taken away even at less than 20%, which was then the mandated price that one had to pay to get those gifts, So obviously, I don't know whether those cases will ever come up or not, but this I said, is the hatchet job. No, Mayank, I don't agree with you, basically. I think this is a temporary phase, and even if the courts of the country would grant a modicum of justice, I think we shall in the next 2, 3, 4 days be able to get the punishment suspended, and he will be out of jail, and then of course we shall be fighting the case. But what we fear is that if he's granted a bail in this case, which we think and hope that will be, then they're going to just haul up in some other case, because there are lots of fake and fabricated cases, which have already been registered against him. There are about 4 or 5 in numbers. There is the cyber thing. There is few other cases, basically. So we feel that they want him behind bars, and they do not want him there at the time of elections. But now we also virtually know that elections are not going to be held anytime soon, particularly after yesterday, when there were 2 by-elections held in Peshawar and Haveli, and both these places are in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And in the Peshawar election, last time they were held, we had ended up at number 4, virtually the last. Yesterday, we won with a thumping majority of 10,000 votes. And at Haveli, basically, the number 1 and number 2 both belonged to Pakistan Tehreek-E-Insaf. One was an official candidate, the other was an unofficial candidate. was there. So we won it, that too. So these, again, in Avelia too, we languishing in the last election, we languishing at, I think, number 4 and number 5. So we won that seat. So this is the way the electorate is, speaking. I mean, it does not matter whether the courts are awarding punishment to Khan or not. The fact is that the electorate has made up its mind. Khan had said a long time ago, he said, let them do whatever they want to with me. He said, whether I am a free man or I am behind bars, the fact is that people will cast the votes for me. And yesterday's elections in Peshawar and Avelia have actually proved him right. That is what they did. They brought his people back.
So ironically, the arrest has ended up bolstering the PTI and your electoral prospects in case national elections are held.
Well, it actually has bolstered, and we expected this kind of response. I mean, when people realize, that, injustice is being meted out to the leader, then obviously they will come out in larger numbers, and I think they will come up with greater level of conviction also. That is exactly what was exhibited in Karachi and Avelia, in Peshawar and Avelia yesterday. I mean, we were absolutely, even we were very pleasantly surprised, because we thought that maybe we do a little better, but we were not expecting to win the elections by margins that we actually did. So that's incredible. That's incredible.
So is it your case that there is absolutely no prospect of elections being held October-November timeframe at all?
No, it is our conviction that elections are not going to be held for 2 reasons. Number one, they have empowered the interim government, because the interim government is inducted for a period of 90 days according to the Constitution of Pakistan, and their sole purpose is to run these day-to-day affairs of this country and then hold elections and hand over power within 90 days. That is number one. So they have empowered the government beyond the stipulated limits contained in the constitution. So that means they want this this government to last longer than just 90 days. We look at 1 to 2 years actually as the time period that they want this government to last. And then of course they've raised this question of census. There was a census conducted, and this elections were going to be held on the basis of the old census. A couple of parties, demanded that it should be held. The election should be held, on the basis of the new census. But they have now, about 3 days ago, they held a session of the Council of Common Interest, in which it has decided that elections will be held on the basis of the new census results. Now that new census results, in the tabulation, and then in the demarcation of constituencies and all that, according to experts, election experts, so they say it may take anything between 4 to 8 months. So given that 3-month period, and that 4 to 8 months period, and the fact, that they got a smashing at Peshawar and Avelia yesterday, so it must have reinforced their conviction that, they cannot win at the hustings. So because of all these factors put together, we are virtually convinced, that elections are not going to be held anytime soon, sir.
Doesn't the incarceration automatically trigger his disqualification from seeking public office?
Yes, technically he has been disqualified for 5 years, and I think the Election Commission of Pakistan has initiated proceedings, to have him removed as the chairman of the Pakistan Tehreek-E-Insaf. But when I said, we are going to move a petition tomorrow, because yesterday our lawyers went to see him at Atak jail, and they were not permitted to meet him, but they went this morning, so they've got the papers signed, which are a prerequisite to being able to move the court. But since the meeting took place in the afternoon, we have not been able to move the petition before the Islamabad High Court today. But we shall be doing so tomorrow, and we hope that in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 days time, we shall be able to get the sentence suspended. Quashment may take longer because, when after the suspension of sentence, the Islamabad High Court, will initiate proceedings all over again. So that may take time, and it depends on the outcome. If the punishment is quashed, then automatically the disablement will also be quashed. So if the Islamabad High Court does not do that, then we have another forum to go to, which is with the Supreme Court of Pakistan. So we feel that we may ultimately have to go to the Supreme Court, because there has, the Islamabad High Court, at least 1 or 2 judges there. One judge definitely, who's the Chief Justice of the Islamabad High Court also, he has been complicit in the matter with the judge of the lower court, which is Judge Dilaver. So, he has been acting in a funny manner in the past also. So we think, or we fear, that ultimately we will have to go to the apex court in the country called the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
But are these justices favorably disposed towards looking at this whole scenario the way you want?
Well, we don't want them to be favorably disposed. We want them to be objective and and take decisions on the basis of the law which is in front of them. If the law dictates that this is a crime of such proportion that he should be first of all, if it's a crime, number one. Number two, is of such proportion that he should be incarcerated for 3 years and disqualified from holding public office. It is for the court to decide. But we are not looking for any favors. But we also do not want them to grant favors to the other party. We want them to take a decision which is strictly in accordance with the rules of law.
I read that he is currently lodged in a C-class cell, which is for ordinary prisoners, including some. I think Don mentioned that it's sometimes even terrorists are lodged in a cell like that. What's the condition? Have you heard anything from the lawyer, Mr. Panjota?
Yes, he met him today, and we have first-hand information. I'll share it with you, but let me first narrate the other contradictions. According to the court order, he was to be arrested by the Islamabad police. Was ordered to arrest him. Instead, he was arrested by Lahore police, and the Lahore police reached there within minutes. So they, it looks like they already knew what was coming. So they arrested him. Then the court also said, that he should be housed at Adiala jail, which is a jail in Rawalpindi, near the adjacent to the capital of Pakistan. Instead, he was taken to Attak jail, which is a colonial heritage, and it does not even have a B quality cell. It all C quality cell. You're right. Terrorists are usually housed there, and they're tortured. So he has been housed in one of those cells basically. And Naeem Panjota, who met him today for about an hour and 40 minutes, he has come back with harrowing description of the conditions under which he has been kept. Said it's a 9 by 11 foot cell, which is dark and dingy, and he virtually has nothing there for his basic comfort. There's not even a bed. There's a chair there, and you see there's a mattress there. There is no light. It's completely dark. What they call the bathroom, but actually it's a toilet. It's a stinking toilet, which is inside the room. So he has to contend with that. So these are the conditions, under which he's living. And we are going to, in our petition before the Supreme Court, we are also going to request that he be provided the facilities that, according to the Constitution of Pakistan, is his right. So let's see how does the court respond to that. There are multiple factors to the petition that we are expected to sort of move tomorrow. So let's see how does the court respond and how do we move further with this. But this is absolutely abominable, the conditions under which, rainwater was dripping from the ceiling last night. So, you can well imagine.
Yeah.
There's a lot of vendetta at play here, more than justice and fair play.
In the event that your case does not go the way you would like, what happens? He remains in prison and then he has to serve out a sentence. I'm talking about beyond Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court also does not rule in favor of releasing him, what is the contingency that the PTI leadership has?
Well, technically, yes, you're right. Then he serves the sentence, and he remains disqualified for a period of 5 years from holding a public office. That means he does not remain the chairman of the party. But that does not mean that he would not be able to guide the party. And so many people, for example, Nawaz Sharif living in London has been disqualified from holding public office in the last 3.5 years. But he has continued to lead the party. So was the case with Zardari also. At some time, he was disqualified, but he continued to lead the party. So, it becomes kind of leaders, without a designation, but they will continue to lead the party. But he will not be able to hold public office. He will not be able to fight the election to become a member of the National Assembly and consequently cannot become the Prime Minister of the country. So that, of course, will not happen for 5 years. before, I mean, we knew that he was going to be arrested. That was, of course, a foregone conclusion. So, but before he was arrested, he had put a mechanism together how to run the party in his absence, and this party is now being run according to that mechanism. There's a core committee, of which I'm also a member, and we meet every day and we take abreast of the situation as it is developing, and then we take decisions, on a day-to-day basis, But these decisions are taken by consensus. This was the chairman's directive, that all decisions, will be taken by consensus. So we have a mechanism, we have a workable mechanism in place, and that is functioning at this moment in time, even when the chairman is not there hopefully for just a short period of time.
How do you battle the deep-rooted culture of vendetta and vindictiveness that has seen your leaders being sent into exile? They are disqualified, they are in prison, then they come back and contest and win. It seems like a cycle in Pakistan, the latest being Mr. Khan.
Mayank, you are absolutely right. I can't doubt it at all, not an iota. And I was in another program, with this lady, Faiza, and we discussed it. And I said it's painful. And it has happened because of excessive politicization of state institutions. Police, for example. I mean, there was a time when Nawab Shehbaz Sharif was the chief minister of Punjab. He brought 2,000 criminals, hardened criminals, out of the prison cell and recruited them in the police department. And and he proceeded to have lots of extrajudicial killings, perpetrated by using these people. But they have stayed on. And instead of 2,000 people, they possibly are 20,000 now, because there's a kind of culture which has penetrated the police force. It's now a collective of criminals and gangsters rather than law enforcers. So we have an institution, and the state of other institutions is not much better. But I must come back to this question that you put again. The fact is that here the battle is not winning an election or losing an election, or not winning this election and not losing this election. This battle had become a battle for political survival of the parties who had been ousted, because they had committed crimes, massive crimes, financial and otherwise, in the country, for which Prime Minister Khan insisted on trying them. Unfortunately, the institutions of the state did not support him in that. Virtually no institution of the state supported him, because they were deeply dug in mafias. He took on the sugar mafia, for example, and they said, we will see you. And they actually, they realized what they wanted to do. So ultimately, he was ousted. The sugar mafia remained intact. So, the roots are very deeply dug in and very vastly spread out. And this is the culture which has been cultivated over a period of 75 years. So Khan, during a short period of time, could not have handled it, particularly when the state institutions were not supportive of that effort, because they too were beneficiaries of this culture of corruption and loot and plunder. So the crisis is that, like I said, in the same program that I just referred to, I said it's no longer a question of, administering disciplines. We need a comprehensive surgical procedure, to get out the ailments, that unfortunately the body politic of this country is so deeply infected with. I don't know whether you know, but I'm a cancer survivor. I know what I went through for 4 years.
Yeah.
I know exactly. It was a rebirth.
Right.
I had to learn to walk again. I had to learn to use my hand. I had to, learn to sort of move my limbs. That is the state of the country. The book that I'm writing, basically, its subcaption states a story of two cancers. It's my cancer and the cancer that I feel my country suffers from. That is actually a correct and apt description of what my country is all about at this moment in time. So you need a prolonged struggle. You need to initiate a prolonged cleansing process. And that should be across all contours of the society. Nobody should be exempted, from that. Nobody has a holy right to stay the way he or she wants to. The fact is that if the country should take precedence, which people like me think it must, then, everybody else has to submit. All institutions have to submit before the interest of the state. That has never been the going thing in Pakistan. Some people have remained beyond the domain of law. They feel that they cannot be touched. And that is the ruling elite, which is less than 1%. In fact, the ruling elite actually is a minuscule of even that 1%. So, they have dominated. They have made laws to their benefit. They have amended laws to their benefit. They have been exempt from prosecution under the rule of law. So, so like I write so often, and I say that there's two laws in this country, one for the rich and one for the poor. And there's another way I describe it, unfortunately, because of the fact, that wealth has been plundered by this minuscule ruling elite, bulk of the people have been branded poor, so poor that they can barely have 2 meals a day. So I say Pakistan suffers from two kinds of corruptions, a corruption of greed and a corruption of need.
Yeah.
Greed by this minuscule ruling elite, because they want more and more, they're billions and they want more billions. And need of that sprawling poor people of the country who are struggling to have 2 meals put on the table or wherever they sit to eat. So, by the roadside, you go to this Telewala, for example, who's selling apples, he would like to give you 5 apples for a kilo rather than 6,
Right.
which is the exact. So, he would that is need. You can overlook that. But, this is the state of the country. This is an appalling state of the country, which unfortunately it has been pushed into. And even today, there are two laws:
Yeah.
one for the rich, one for the poor, one for the powerful, one for the weak. You have two justice systems. Yeah.
On my last visit to Pakistan in 1993, a long time ago, I was told by someone that one of the fundamental problems that what you see in Pakistan is the feudal lordism that you see in Pakistan is there was never any serious land reform done like it was done in India, for instance. And that has really sort of spun off the kind of problems that you continue to see 75 years into your existence.
Three problems. Three problems. First and foremost is the one that you described. Yes, we have had no land reforms in the country. Bhutto came, but those were fraudulent land reforms. He said, no, he gave a ceiling of ownership of land for every person, But what people did was that instead of disposing it off and giving it to the poor people in the land, they transferred the land in the names of their servants. So it actually virtually remained their property. Then second is that we, I'm comparing with India, of course, you had land reforms very early on under Prime Minister Nehru. Then second is that you had a constitution very early on. We did not have a constitution till 1973, although there was a constitution in 56, but it was aborted. It was not implemented. So we ultimately ended up with the constitution in 1973. And number three is the justice system from day one, because judiciary became involved in legitimizing military takeovers. The judiciary always legitimized a military takeover. The military dictators depended on legitimization, from the judiciary to escape punishment, because obviously there was a constitution post 1973.
How fearful are you of for Mr. Khan's life at this stage?
Well, that's a very, very sensitive question, and to be honest about it, we discussed at length in the core committee meeting today. Yes, we are very fearful about his life. You see, I think in my last program with you, we discussed the tactics employed to neutralize him, including political elimination, physical elimination, and now this phase, which is the third phase. This is having him implicated, in cases like the one Tosha Khana and others. So there is desperation. There is growing desperation. And I'm sure with the results yesterday in Peshawar and Avelia that we discussed, this desperation possibly is going to increase further. And because of the reason that Khan is proving to be unlike any of his predecessors, who, when ousted from power, would compromise and leave the country, be it Sharif, be it Zardari, be it others. Unlike them, he says that he is going to stay on in the country because this is where he belongs, and that he does not have billions stashed abroad or property stashed abroad, that he's going to sort of go to look after. So he says, this is my country and everything that I have belongs here and I'm going to stay here. So he's a different kind of politician, and he's proving to be a different kind of politician. It's a mindset game, basically. So that will inject a much higher level of desperation among the people who want to see him eliminated.
Do you think they underestimated his tenacity?
Well, I think yes. I think yes. Although Khan has been uh, sort of known for his tenacity, his consistency, and the fact that he does not give in. I mean, if you talk to his cricketing colleagues, basically, who were part of the 1992 team also, Ramiz Raja, one of them, actually appeared in a program and he said, we feel that because he kept on saying that we're going to win the cup. And if you remember, during the initial matches, we lost all, and we were on the verge of being eliminated in the initial stages, when we were saved by rain, and we got into the semi-finals. From then on, Pakistan played a different kind of game. So Rami says, that when against the run of the matches, when he insisted that we're going to take the cup home, we said he's gone mad. He actually used the word. So such is his tenacity, such is his depth of belief. And this is, in fact, the source of his power also, the source of his energy also. To, this deep inside, that resides deep inside him, this faith. He gets a lot of power from that.
Speaking of cricket and cricketers, has any of his colleagues come out in support openly?
Well, I haven't seen any, but I know that he has friends all over the world, from the cricketing world. There are, I think, a couple of tweets that I have read, complaining about the way he's being treated and all that. But then he has not appealed to them either. He has not appealed to anybody for support or help. So this is just one of those things that people are looking at.
At this stage, what's the end game for the Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif from this?
He has said that he is going to dissolve the assembly by the 9th, which is 2 days away. So that means day after tomorrow, he would no longer be the prime minister. Rumors have been circulating, that there is a division within the family. People have raised question marks, why is it that even after a passage of 16 months in the government by his brother, Nawaz Sharif has not come back to Pakistan. He has held meetings, but he has only flown to Dubai and back to London. So this and some personal information that I've collected, I think there is an ongoing kind of conflict, between Nawaz's and Shahbaz's children. Both of them are promoting their respective progeny, and unfortunately, the insiders have confided in me, that Shahbaz is no longer willing to see Nawaz Sharif come back and bid for a 4th term. Certain other powers also are unwilling to accept him back in the board. So it is said that possibly he may not come back. Till about 3 months ago, there was much talk about the fact that he was going to be back and he was going to lead the charge to become the prime minister a 4th time. But that noise has kind of died down of late. So let's see what happens. It's just 2 days away. Let's see, first of all, see who becomes the interim prime minister. And let's also see, like we discussed in the earlier part of your program, that I don't foresee any elections in the near future because of, the census results, and the economic situation in the country. So let's see what happens, and then, I think from there on, we can see who would be a likelier candidate to sort of assume power whenever elections are held.
The interim government can go on indefinitely?
90 days. Only 90 days.
And do they have the ability to extend after that, or that's it?
No. Constitution mandates that within 90 days, they have to hand over charge to the government elected by the people of the country. But in the recent past, the court mandated, Constitution mandated that elections are to be held within 60 days in the provinces, where PTI had dissolved its assemblies, in Punjab and KP. But in spite of the court injunction, the government refused to hold those elections. So they have been in defiance of the Constitution. They have been in defiance of the electoral system and all that. And recently, 3 days ago, the Supreme Court has issued its detailed verdict, in which it has categorically stated, that the Election Commission of Pakistan and the administration were in defiance of the Constitution and they have committed a crime. Now, whether that leads to institution of cases against them is something different. But you must also remember that the Supreme Court has taken this long, to come up with its detailed judgment, because and it had not issued a detailed judgment then because it knew that the institutions of the state, which are supposed to come to its aid to have the judgments implemented, this is mandated in the Constitution, will not do so, be it the administration or be it other institutions of the state. Consequently, it did not, after that judgment regarding holding of elections in Punjab on the 14th of May, which of course were not held, it did not make public this detailed judgment which has come out now, where it has blamed the Election Commission of Pakistan and the administration for having committed contempt of Constitution.
So, what are the implications of the interim government staying beyond the stipulated 90-day period?
Well, we will have to see where do they get that legitimacy. Maybe they're also looking at the changeover of leadership in the Supreme Court. And if maybe they go to the Supreme Court and cite the reasons, why they would want the interim government to stay beyond the mandated 90 days. Like the military takeovers have been legitimized by the judiciary. The judiciary may once again invent another doctrine of necessity and legitimize a longer stay by the interim government, stretching up to 2 years or so, which is being speculated.
Just last couple of things, Raoof. What is there any apprehension or fear within the PTI of disintegration now that they see Mr. Khan seemingly weakening, although that doesn't seem to be the case to the PTI cadres and members? What is your sense of how the party is looking at this turn of events?
Well, we believe that we are through with the worst of it. If the party had to go, the party, of course, like I call them the rats jumping the ship, who all were the so-called electables, they joined the government, never to serve the country, but to serve the personal interest, which they did. And by the way, that was a mistake on our part also. I'm not condoning that. We selected the wrong people to join the ship, to come on the ship, on board the ship. They were the first ones to do. They were the corrupt people, easily manipulatable by those who wanted to manipulate them. So they are gone. And as I said, in one of my articles, the party has been cleansed of such electables. So it's kind of gone back to the moorings, ideological moorings. Yes, we are through with the worst. This party has survived without bulk of its senior leadership. We have survived through the worst of times, and I think it's time for us to research. I wrote in that article that it's like a phoenix thing, basically. I think the party that shall emerge out of the ashes is going to be a stronger party, a more cohesive party, and a more ideologically rooted party. That I think I see, with increasing hope and optimism.
To conclude, even if this was not the situation where Mr. Khan has been arrested and imprisoned, there would be the question of new second-tier leadership, because he is getting in on years, and I'm sure even without this, that point would have been raised by some. What's your sense of that, about the second-tier leadership?
Well, we've had many sessions with Khan Saab regarding the same question, Mayank. He's totally committed to letting the younger generation come forth. And he says that bulk of my candidates for national and provincial assembly seats they are going to be from the younger generation. And some of the people are quite visible, as a matter of fact, on the political spectrum here, who are going to take over. And they are present in this core committee that I've talked about. They are part of the decision-making process, to take the party through these difficult times. So one thing is very clear, that within the PTI, Mayank, you will now be seeing a lot of younger people who have played. I mean, this person, for example, who was one big in Peshawar, he was a very ordinary worker of PTI. And during difficult days, he was present at Banigala, is Khan's residence in Islamabad, and then he was present at Zaman Park, Khan's residence in Lahore. And he was the one, he was one of the people who slept there, who were spending time there, who would refuse to go. And Khan had seen him there doing all that kind of work. So out of nowhere, he said, I'm going to nominate him as my candidate. He's a very young boy, about maybe 24, 25 years of age. Not more than that, maybe even younger than that. So he won big, and so this is. Let me share something with you. I think it's important. I have this strong feeling, I may not have been in politics. I still am not in the so-called traditional politics of this country, and I'll never be. But I've written about politics. I've sort of studied politics. This country is post next election, whenever that is said, you will see a lot of new faces emerging. Lot of new faces emerging. So it's going to be different. I think this country has taken a turn, hopefully for the better. And the country is never going to be the same as existed, let's say, about 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So that is a positive, that I really cherish. And I hope that we all remain steadfast, in our resolve to let the younger people emerge and come forth. So far as Khan is concerned, he has been constantly reiterating his commitment to giving a chance to the younger lot. So if they come forth, I think they will come with your commitment, additional energy. And I also feel that they will also have a deep set love and affection for the country, and they will take it forward. I think I bank my hope in that future led by the young lot.
Before I let you go, I must ask you, while one always hopes for the best in terms of Mr. Khan's future from now on, in terms of the worst case scenario, what is the talk within the party that if he stays on in prison for 3 years and gets disqualified, is there anything that you can share with us?
Well, yeah, as I said earlier, he has put a mechanism in place. As I said, core committee is part of that mechanism. So we're taking decisions by consensus, and if God forbid, he does not get relief from the courts, and he is to stay behind bars for 3 years. Obviously, we will have somebody leading the way. It could be collective leadership, as we are experimenting now, which is working very well. But I think at some point in time, maybe we have to move away from this collective leadership and have people demarcated for playing various roles. But whenever it is done, if it has to be done, if, for example, he does not get a relief or something, obviously it will be done with his guidance and according to his wishes.